guys, the amazing singer-songwriting couple Adam and Chris Carroll are my guests this week on the Boston Chris podcast. Don't go anywhere.
It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hey, this is Helene Cronin. Thanks so much for tuning into the Boston Chris Show.
All right, this song's called Road Miles. Late nights, early morning, Jack Daniels in a glass. Never let 'em know that you're hurting. Sure showed Holiday in some class. Stopped at every late night dive, from here to St. Paul, Shreveport, all the way to Mobile, Cheyenne to Wichita Falls. Little rough around the edges, never made you soft. You got one too many road miles, one too many road miles, one too many road miles. You can't ride 'em all off. The journey never ends, just goes on and on. Highway map sitting on your lap, kinda sounds like a song. Shine painting on the great high plains, fit to be tied with your loving, fighting, wild horse riding Cherokee bride. Can't help getting older, but you can help it when you're lost. You got one too many road miles, one too many road miles, one too many road miles. You can't ride 'em all off. Back of steel, behind the wheel, shining like a brand new dime. Never late, can't wait, right on time.
Right on time.
Angels of the good life, they know who you are. Watch them grow, seen them go, from firecrackers to shooting stars. A lot of things about you probably never know. Never got to see the spotlight, but you never missed a show. Left your heart in Dallas with all you had to lose. One foot in the city and the other keeping time to the Northeast Oklahoma 12-bar blues. Sang a cowboy song, won a coin toss. You got one too many road miles, one too many road miles, one too many road miles. You can't ride 'em all off. One too many road miles, one too many road miles, one too many road miles. You can't ride 'em all off.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here with another fabulous episode of the Boston Chris podcast, and we have Adam and Chris Carroll here on the show tonight. And before we get started into our in-depth portion of the interview, I got to talk about a show that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Actually, it's in a week when this comes out. July 12th at the Bowery in Winnsboro. Adam and Chris will be playing. And what can folks expect from this show from y'all?
Well, I think, we've been playing together now I'd say about 12 years. So kind of a combination of the stuff we do together and kind of some of the stuff we do individually, I think is kind of what we'll be doing. We did a duo record back in 2018. And then And then I've got a lot of solo stuff, and Chris is, independent musician as well. So, usually what we do is we kind of do a lot of harmonies together and kind of accompany each other. And then sometimes I'll do some solo stuff, and then Chris will sing, some songs on her own as well. But most of it is when we play together is pretty is kind of us playing duo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited that you guys are going to play solo as well individually, because I love you both individually as songwriters as well. So that's exciting. And plus, I just found out today that Cole Allen is opening for you guys, who's also a phenomenal songwriter from the East Texas area as well. So
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing him.
yeah,
for sure.
he's great. He's great. Multi-instrumentalist, and yeah, that show starts at 7:30 at the Bowery in Winnsboro, and there'll be a link in the description below where you guys can get your tickets. You guys are gonna have to hurry though, because these shows, they sell out pretty quick out here at the Bowery. It's one of the best rooms in East Texas, and just a great place to see a storyteller in action, and you guys will get to see 3 in one night. So y'all make sure you're coming out. Click the link down there and get you some tickets. And let's start with a little bit of an icebreaker for y'all. What are your favorite drinks right now, alcoholic or not?
Well, I like. I'm actually drinking Topo Chico at the moment, and I've tried to cut back on those recently. It seems like any music singer songwriter folk Americana venue has a Topo Chicos in stock, so I usually drink them like I was a 2-year-old with a sippy cup.
Maybe we should get you one just for the Topo Chico.
He's got one. Show him your sippy cup.
Yeah. More than a
All right.
2-year-old.
He's got a big
actually.
boy sippy cup.
It's
Keeps it nice
a
and
big
cold.
boy sippy cup. Yep.
That's it. I'm a La Croix, or as you guys like to say, LaCroix drinker. I'm big into the sparkling water as well, but with a little bit of flavor. I had a friend one time describe it as if you drop a Skittle into it. That's about as much flavor as you're going to get, but that's good for me. And
Is that right?
yeah, that was so. It's about permeates the little bubbles there, and I'm big into that. I like that. But anything on the rocks, because it's cold, it's hot out, so I need.
Yeah,
that
you like cold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta have
Yeah.
cold too, man. Everything I drink has to be cold. Even my coffee, like I like iced coffee too. So
Yeah, I had one of those today as well.
yeah, I don't know if I could live without iced coffee at this point. And I just started drinking coffee within the last couple of years too. I'd never touched
Oh.
it my entire life. So
Whoa,
Yeah.
late to the game, late to the
crazy,
caffeine.
right? Yeah,
I like it though. I think that's cool for you.
yeah. It's very cool
Now's
for
the
me
time
now.
to get into it because everything's coffee this, coffee that. Back then, I would get a Tim Hortons coffee, a large double. That's a classic Canadian coffee drink.
Yeah, and you notice she said La Croix. She said it the right way, so she's got to have a little bit of Canadian.
Yeah, and I definitely want to chat about that. I love how you guys met, and I want you guys to tell the story. But growing up, I always have a growing up section of the podcast, and this y'all's story is a little bit different when it comes to growing up. Adam is from Tyler, Texas, which a lot of our Eastern Texas listeners will be very familiar with. And Chris is from St. Catharines in Northern Ontario.
Southern, but yeah.
Is
okay,
it Southern
yeah.
Ontario?
Sorry to, yeah. I'm sorry to jump right in on that.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick funny thing about that,
Sure.
just so that we can my weird interruption. When I first got to Texas to see Adam play, I think you were playing in Mathis, Texas. There's the biker bar kind of on the side of the farm to market road, and this big old cowboy was in there, and he said, "Where are you from in Canada?" I said, "Southern Ontario." He goes, "Southern what? There ain't nothing southern about where you're from, girl."
Right.
As last time I described Southern, because I'm near Niagara Falls, and that's where I grew up, like south of Toronto.
Okay.
And so Northern Canadians, they're north.
Yeah, they're off the grid people, right? Like very off
They're
the grid.
pretty northern. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty tough. They make fun of us. Like we can't, we're not even Canadian to them.
Yeah. It's funny. We just had a songwriter from Quebec on the show, and he's in Nashville now. But his family kind of split. He grew up in Quebec, but he also spent a lot of time in Hartford, Connecticut. And I said, so Hartford is pretty south to you, but it's pretty north for us.
That's right. Exactly. It's all relative, right?
Exactly. I love that. And I mean, you guys ended up meeting in Canada too, right?
We sure did.
We did. Yeah, we met at a friend of ours named Roger Marin has a festival or had a festival. I guess he's not really doing it anymore, but in St. Catharines and across the street from Chris's family home. And she was playing a gig there and I was playing a gig there. And we just sort of ran into each other up there. And actually we were playing on the same slot. I was
I opened for you.
She was playing first and then I came on, but it was like one of those deals where they shuffle people on and off pretty quick. And I had actually been to this festival a couple times, and I think it was Chris, it was your first time there. And but we just hung out, and
I tried to feed you grapes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, not like this. Like I just offered him some grapes.
Yeah.
It wasn't crazy.
Not quite that forward then, huh?
Not right. Not yeah. I didn't come on that strong. Found out later he didn't really like grapes very much. But then later on, I think
they've grown on me.
Yeah, there you go.
It was pretty hot in
hot there
St.
that
Catharines
time.
in July too.
Yeah.
It was end of July too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
humid, very
And
humid.
Chris, you already knew who he was at that point, right?
You know what? I didn't. And
Okay.
for me that night and that day, O'Connor played as well. Michael.
Okay.
And I'd heard Roger Marin. I heard there was a fella, Jesse T. Reed, back home would play a song by Adam Carroll, and he would say, and he was very shy already, just how his countenance was. So you really didn't get. He would say maybe this is a song by Adam Carroll, and then play it. So I just thought it was. I didn't hear that beginning. I just thought, well, that guy's a great songwriter, because he was so quiet the way he wasn't trying to hide that it wasn't his song, but he was just shy about it. And so I'd heard The Girl with the Dirty Hair. I'd never met the writer. I didn't know. I wasn't clued in yet. I was about to preview the best songwriting I'd seen live in my right there in front of me. And that's what happened for me. He played Old Milwaukee's Best, and I almost fell off the picnic table I was sitting on. I was laughing so hard. And then he played Rice Birds and just demoed me. It was just so beautiful. And between him and Michael playing together, I think he played guitar with you, I think, didn't he, a bit? And anyway, it was just captivating to me because, I know we'll talk about our influences, but it was like Prine, catching a bit of Prine right in front of my face, And he was adorable.
And Prine is a major influence for both of y'all's music, but I gotta know, like, in Southern Canada, how are you being influenced by John Prine? How does that permeate your existence?
It was my dad. I think a lot of what happened is a lot of our kind of baby boomer dads, people, mums and dads, were listening to Prine. They caught a hold of him in the late 70s, early 80s, and were passing around that CD or something. And my dad got a hold of it and played it on repeat in our home. We had, what's Prine? Is it the one with the haystack?
Prime,
right?
That was the one that had his 3 or 4 first albums on it.
Yeah. And my father would have me singing Sam Stone, and he's going to kill me. But he was a single dad. He had 3 kids, and we'd go camping. We'd be in the van, and I'd be singing about, Sam Stone when I was a little girl.
Wow.
And I'm so glad he did. I'm so glad he was playing that. It was a big mix of stuff at home.
So you already knew how to recognize great songwriting at a young age then.
Well, and I think, growing, we have Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, and you can add the Bare Naked Ladies, and Joan Osborne. I don't know how many others you might not even know about. The Tragically Hip. They were all putting out music that. And Canadians, we love stories and songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're listening to you guys too. You know, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I love songwriting. It's not the same back home. It wasn't the same as it revered as it is in Texas, I think, as a culture.
Right.
But it was definitely, you know, it was around me.
And what about you,
But
Adam? Like, what was your
Mhm.
first kind of like exposure to music? Like, what are your first musical memories?
My mom would, as far as just in general, I guess my mom taught me music and stuff when I was a little boy. Just she's real musical, and her side of the family is real musical, and so she used to, you know, she said, I don't really remember specifically. She said she would teach me. I could sing chords. Uh, she would have me teach me chords and stuff. And I could sing them by ear. But I didn't really. I wished I had applied myself more because I didn't. I didn't the choir and stuff and all that. I didn't take. Really didn't take. I rebelled against it, and but I um, as far as you know, yeah, songwriters and stuff. I would, John Prine was the first one that I saw live that I couldn't believe. Um, I think I saw him live like 3 times in my life, and it's kind of similar to Chris. My dad had his. He had. I don't know if Ted had Prime, but that was the one my dad
No, we
had.
had that. That
And
was
that
the
and I thought it was like his great. It was a compilation, and but I listened to that. My dad gave me his vinyl and all and his record player and stuff, and I listened to that Prine. This is when I was in college. Um, but and I think I just like I couldn't believe. I'm trying to think right now, Chris. If there's if there was another time, if there was other stuff before Prime. I mean, I definitely, I think we both
Neil
claim
Young,
Neil
Yeah,
Young as
I
a.
got you.
I mean, I remember getting into that, and just classic rock stuff,
And
but
Neil
I
Young's
mean,
somebody that you kind of happened upon in college too, right? North Carolina.
yeah, I was, I think I went up to a boarding school in North Carolina, and a lot of the kids up there, and there weren't very many of them at that place, but there was a lot of kids knew like the kind of jam bands that I had never heard of, except for my cousin had knew about them, but I didn't like Fish and that kind of those kind of. I didn't know anything about that until I went up there, and then and but really I think coming home from that and discovering Prine for me was just like he was singing my life, and and then and because the other concerts I'd been to were like classic rock bands and like Guns N' Roses and stuff, and I remember seeing them live and having their records, and it just wasn't the same, But then listening to Prine, I just thought this is this magical character that can't even be, and this is from years ago, and when I wasn't even born really, so this can't be the same. And when the guy got up there, it was like he just everything I imagined he could be, he was, at that point in time. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, and I just immediately then I just wanted to be a part of, that kind of a, deal.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's that kind of music and that kind of storytelling that kind of reaches into your soul, man. Like that's why I'm such a big fan of solo, like acoustic stuff, almost unplugged, unproduced kind of music, man. And you guys were both really influenced by that from completely different parts of the world, really, which is insane to think about. But one thing I wanted to talk about is how do you guys feel that Texas is kind of influenced your style or genre or whatever it is that you guys do now? I'd love to hear both of y'all, especially Chris being from Canada, because I know that it had to be a culture shock coming down here.
Yeah. So as I'm listening to Adam share, and you also saying, Chris, about how the experience of listening to the player on the stage, that was what I was touring around with Adam and playing shows and singing a little bit on Hi-Fi Love. I was on a pleasure visa, we called it, because I got a little trouble at the border, and they were worried that I was going to come here and not and work without a visa. So I was told that by one of the border guards. He circled the working portion on the back, and he said, "You can go to Texas and you can have fun only. You can only have fun."
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
it's about time. I've been working since I was a little kid. I'm ready for some fun." And so I joined Adam on the stage, and I think back to your "Let It Choose You" record is when I sort of was on the scene just before, and Lloyd Maines is who transformed me, because I've got this big voice that I can belt, and I've been singing Aretha Franklin, and you name it, I'll sing it. If I'm grooving with it, I can get it down and sing usually, and soul singers, all kinds of stuff. And it's in it, and he turned me into an instrument, in the studio,
Yeah.
really right there in that day. Um, and I always remember too, talk about influence, I was singing spoken for, and there's a lot of O's in that song, and being Canadian, those O's around,
Yep. Yep.
And so he patched in. It's one of my favorite stories. You just, you hear Lloyd's voice come over. I never can do his accent, but he's like, Chris, could you sing a little less like Adam's Canadian wife and a little more like his sister from Tyler, Texas?
Let's go.
And he actually had to come over because I was still around, and because with harmony singing, you got to match up,
Yep.
and that's one thing I love to do, is just match up, and that was really my first crash course in doing that. And he actually had me come and hook my fingers in my pants and kick my boot out, sort of my shoe, just do a little country pose to make sure I was in the saddle on it. And so, in that session and singing with him, and I think just playing music with you and wanting to honor what he is doing and was doing, and lend my voice to it. What can I bring, and what not to sing, and when not to sing, and and then Adam always says, he's Americana in me. He's kind of like, he feels like, oh, we want to see what else you can do, but I'm happy with it. I like, my favorite is to be the accompanist. That's like to sing a harmony and to add a little bit of flavor into a song. That really, I'll sing a lead, no problem. But my favorite is that. So I think honing that over time, really, when we lock in on a set and we're playing a show, and it's just magic for me, and to hear him together, it's like we're in the studio live off the floor.
I love that
And
you learned that your voice is an instrument. It's so lost by a lot of artists how important vocals are as an instrument, I feel, especially in a studio setting. So like Lloyd's a freaking icon. So
he's the one to, I got lucky that it was with Lloyd, and then of course working with Adam Carroll, you're not going to go wrong. But and then over time, we've built it and layered it, not trying to shove it in, or not trying to push in on what isn't supposed to be there. So that's where Texas has influenced me in a lot of ways, right? I'm in so many ways. It's a new experience, being here, and like I said before, it being such a beloved form of art here, that people don't often say. They do say, "What's your other job?" But what's your other gig? Most of the time, are you a songwriter? Oh, cool. Back home it is, oh, you play songs. Where do you work? That kind of thing. So it's treasured here still. Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. Yeah. So that's my take on that. I don't know if I went off track on the question.
You did great. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. And Adam, what about you? Like being from Eastern Texas, I feel like I'm in Northeast Texas myself, and I feel like original music kind of gets lost in this area for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I read somewhere in an interview that you did that you felt out of place in your hometown. Why was that?
Chris, I think, I just sort of always kind of felt different, there and growing up in Tyler. I didn't really fit in well in high school. Back then, I thought I was the only one, but I mean, there's so many people who feel the same, and I think that you know, I just sort of struggled to really fit in. I just didn't, I had some friends, but I never really felt very popular. And in terms of like the stuff that I liked, um, it was usually stuff like that my parents turned me on to, like the Beatles or Hendrix or even classic country and stuff. Like most of the people that I hung out or that were in my sphere there, and I'm thinking of high school. Just thought that, and I would remember I would tape like a Hendrix tapes covers to my books. Like I would decorate my books.
That's cool.
That's
And
badass. Yeah.
and
I don't like these
well,
kids
thank
who are
you,
at
man.
school.
Right.
But they were like, this one kid was like, "Man, what are you doing with a Hendrix thing on your book?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's awesome." He's like, "It's
He's
old,
just
it's
jealous
old."
that he didn't have it himself.
Yeah, and I just sort of felt out of place. And I think to your question, to your point, I think maybe part of the, you know, in what people think of Texas as Texas, when you're not from here, Texas. I guess a lot of people in Texas as well. Like when I was gone from there, in North Carolina, for instance, or other places, I've noticed people think of it as San Antonio and Austin and West Texas.
Yep.
They think of cowboys, and that East Texas gets ignored as not really important or part of the story. And a lot of people, it also gets kind of like that. Like, oh, it's got a bad reputation. And I think that I think maybe it's just unfortunate that it gets overlooked that way, and maybe possibly that has something to do with why it's difficult to get that kind of thing going there. When I was kind of learning about Texas music, and watching, Robert Earl Keen, or, hearing about Towns Van Zandt and stuff, or, and I heard those songs, or Terry Allen, Lubbock people. I really connected to those folks, but I never, you know, I, the places that they were from, I didn't know anything about, but you know, those lyrics and those songs, touched me in a way that, so I think that for me, I learned from from those writers that I could write about my area, in a way that, you know, made sense. And I think that, as I get older, I realize that area is a part of me. And so even, I've always I did kind of have a time where I didn't want to stay there, and I think Austin area has just always been, hopefully it will continue, but it has always been, where people go here to pursue music, I think. But as I get older, I realize, that, the parts of that part of, I don't see it as a place that I want to leave. I see it as just kind of like, part of me,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if that
love
answers
that,
the
man.
question.
It's funny. I've lived in East Texas since 2001, and I've been part of the music scene here since probably 2007 ish. So about 15 years, 17 years, something like that. 18. I guess it's more than that. Jesus, we're getting old. Um, but yeah, I just feel like I don't know if it's a venue problem here, where like venues don't book original music, or if it's a listener problem, where, you know, maybe the fans here, music fans here, just want to hear cover stuff. I don't know what it is. I just wish there was more original music outlets here in East Texas, because there's just so many phenomenal songwriters from here, yourself included. Will Jennings is from here, and Sonny Sweeney, Neil McCoy, you know, Gene Watson. I mean, there's just so many amazing singer-songwriters from East Texas, and I just wish venues or listeners would give original music a little more chance here. So was it Austin that you really started to feel like you fit in somewhere musically, Adam?
No, I actually, well, I mean, specifically Austin. I moved there in the late '90s. I moved in with Corey Morrow, and I was a roommate of his for a bit, and I opened shows for him. And that kind of fraternity scene that he was in at that point, you know, and he had a lot of fans. And, you know, but then I moved to San Marcos,
Ah,
and I met, and I had a really good team of publicists that Terry Hendricks turned me on to. So I think through Lloyd Maines and Terry Hendricks, I kind of found, and Kent Finlay, Cheatham Street Warehouse, found a real home in San Marcos, and you know, I just that was the place that I think I just felt real comfortable in, and it was a real community of folks there, were playing and stuff, and writing, and it all kind of centered around Cheatham Street, and so yeah, that's kind of where I made my first kind of connection. But then I would go and play gigs in Austin and all around. And but as far as being like in Austin, you know, there were people that I know that, you know, they were kind of, you know, got their start there, and I never really felt like I did, only because I never really lived in Austin very long.
yeah. Chris, there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because
Sure.
it's something my wife and I do as well, and that's being a caregiver for someone older. And I know that this, well, I should say I've read that this was an impetus for you in the creation of your music and the start of your music career. What was it about being a caregiver that really kind of catapulted you to finally chase that dream?
Well, you know, I played music since I was, you know, in like as a hobby kind of
Yeah.
thing. And my Oma was who I took care of. My Oma, my grandmother.
Right.
And you know, she was afraid whenever I say I was going to play music. It was like I was going to rob a bank, you know. She was like, "Hey, you know, Chris, you're gonna." She was from Holland, you know. My dad was born in Holland. Anyway, she wanted me to have a good career, you know, and music to her wasn't going to pay the bills,
Right.
you know. So I think at one point she's like, "You're going to work at a gas station and someone's going to rob you." I'm like, "Oh, but that's a very specific, you know, fear that you have for me." But she wasn't wrong. That was probably the kind of job I'd be allowed to have, you know, to accommodate music. So what was interesting is that I was taking care of her there. I got the privilege of doing that. It was the biggest, and my grandfather too. My Opa was also there for a period of time, but it became difficult for me to care for them both, because he was kind of wandering off on me and whatnot, and she was getting, you know, more ill, and getting closer to the end. So he went up to live with my uncle up in northern Ontario, and I kept home at home. My father and I kind of switched off. Like I'd be, you know, it takes a lot for full-time care.
Yep.
And then I'd go home to St. Catharines and rest and kind of recoup my energy, and then get back up there with her. And it was the biggest privilege. It was the best gift. And for her as well, I hope, because we were always very close. I mean, she was one of the most influential people in my life, and I would sing for her every day. I would sing Joni Mitchell. I would sing, you know, Fleetwood Mac. I would sing whomever I felt like singing that day, and So it was like I was auditioning for her. And ooh, I'm going to get emotional. But as she was going, before she was still communicating, I was talking with her and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do after this, because I had taken a leave from work and I'd worked in sales a long time and office furniture stuff. And what am I going to do next? And she said, Chris, just play your music. And it
Wow.
was like, finally, she's like, nothing else is making you happy. Just play your music in her Dutch, just play your music. And I mean, from her, that was like, that was it. That was the whole deal, and that she was like, she gave me permission, that she felt safe with that. It was, and so I got this little PA system, and I had a friend in my hometown. He, booked me a little gig at a coffee shop or a little pub, I think it was. I had some friends come, and I was playing my songs I'd written, and then peppering in the covers, like more like playing the covers and peppering in my songs. And I did that. Had that little PA my dad kind of invested in when we were all done with Oma, and she'd moved on to the great reality. And so I was playing. I started playing like 3 shows a week at a bistro, one at another, like a Sunday afternoon gig at a kind of a gastro pub in the town, and 2 or 3 shows a week. And that's where I came down to play to the Cicada Fest, and I had 2 other shows that weekend. I had a private party, and then I had my bistro gig or something like that. And so I was booking shows. I was playing for tips sometimes. I was playing for like a small amount of money and tips, but I was kind of putting it together. And then I played Cicada Fest, and I met this guy, and Alma was right.
Yeah.
And it's like she kind of sent him to me.
Yeah.
What is that? A Texas guy, this beautiful Texan coming to Ontario. And I mean, they're behind it, all of it. There was all these other parts that were connecting with us, our story and our healing stuff. And as Adam was talking about, I don't want to go on too long, but that when he was talking about East Texas with you, see, when we met, we exchanged CDs. He got my little demo, and I got Live at Flipnotics, and that album changed my life.
Yeah.
And I was grieving all that, and I was tired, and I was going through a bit of a hard time, and I was just listening to Live at Flipnotics on repeat. So much so that my buddy would pick me up to go to a show. We'd take my gear, and he'd say, "You got your soother, Chrissy?" Because we put it in the disc player and in his truck, and no one talked, and we just listened to Adam Carroll. And he painted a vignette of East Texas and of Louisiana, places I'd never been before, but painted these stories
Yeah.
for me. And that that as we went, that's how it happened. But Oma, it was like unlocking a key. It was just like unlocking a lock.
Do you ever wonder if she hadn't kind of given you that permission, almost, what would have happened? Like,
I do, because I also had a very strong intuition that I was 36, and I thought, if you're not going to do it now, you'll never do it.
Right.
You're just never going to do it. If you're getting a little long in the tooth already. That was my instinct. And then my buddy Charlie, who booked that coffee shop gig for me, anyway, it doesn't matter. He had said, Chris, you could treat it like a trade, just like a carpenter. You just go and get the jobs. Go, just treat it like a trade, just like a carpenter works. And it was like, I locked that in and went, oh, I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
So
that's hard, when the people above you didn't believe in it as a trade, right? Like when they're telling you that's not a real job, you need to get a real job, right? Like
a lot of my whole life,
Yeah.
like they were afraid. It makes people get afraid that
Yeah.
you're going to throw your life away. You've got to get something serious, and they're not, they're not wrong.
Right.
Because
I mean, the pandemic proved that, right? Like how essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really, like, I tell little kids, I'm like, stay in school, go to college,
Yeah.
get a career, get a degree, definitely, because you are, you got to be a little left to center to take a risk, because it is. I mean, it's feast or famine a lot of the time. So. Yeah.
Let's get back to Adam. You mentioned a couple of names earlier in Lloyd Maines and Kent Finlay, and I also want to expound upon what Chris just mentioned about painting landscapes for people in song, which is just such such an impressive thing that you're able to do, Adam, and I'm just a huge fan of that, and not just yours, but other songwriters that are able to do that as well. But because of the freedom of being an indie artist and a songwriter in the folk Americana genre, you're able to write whatever the hell you want, essentially. And I mean, you've painted a picture of tribute for folks like Kent Finlay and Lloyd Maines. What do those kind of songs mean to you when you're able to, write about the people that were important in your journey, like Lloyd and Kent?
Well, I think it just, I think it means to me that, Chris, I guess I would say that, kind of gives me some perspective on, um, the relationships I've been able to form in this, uh, business, I guess, that I didn't, that I feel fortunate to be able to have had, and I think that, kind of, thinking about back about, growing up, how and, I just always, struggled to kind of find my spot in life, you know, which is, a little more common than I thought, as I said, but I thought that I was the only one, and but anyway, I think that to come from that to where I just didn't know, I struggled thinking I wouldn't be able to make it. Just had some challenges growing up with, learning and physical stuff, and um, you know, I just had a hard time, and to know that I could, people like, to look back on Kent and Lloyd and me and Chris and um, and getting to do what I've been able to do so far. Um, I feel very very fortunate because I certainly would never have imagined in my wildest, honestly, I seriously mean this. I could never even fathom getting to do what I've gotten to do. You know, um, you know, thinking as a kid or a young adult, even. It blows me away. But so that's kind of what when I sing those songs. You know, you know, uh, and the one with Lloyd, is kind of a tribute to Lloyd, also to other. I kind of put other musicians in there who mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one with Kent is sort of the stuff that I wished I had, um, been able to say to him while he was alive.
Yeah.
That I didn't get a chance to complete that conversation. And so when I can deliver that to an audience, and knowing that, whatever that means to those folks, that I can sincerely, deliver that emotion, and hopefully that, shows through. But he meant that, and Lloyd, obviously, to so many people. Kent meant that to a lot of songwriters
Mm.
because he just loved songwriters, and in a way that I think that is very unique. Um, he didn't. Um, he just. I think most of us didn't really realize what we had until he's gone.
We knew it, but you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
After looking back,
Because it's just left such a hole. I mean,
it's
such a hole
changed
in
a
that.
lot.
Yeah, and I mean, he was just such a force, and I think that yeah. So I
It was
think
sort of like an orbit. Everyone orbited around him. Because I came in at the end, but it was sort of like he was a connecting thread. That it was sort of like if you could, like a maypole type thing.
Like a
It was
hub,
just
like a
a
hub.
hub.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it was really him. It was, it wasn't really. I mean, Cheatham Street is is
it was
is a
him.
cool place, but it was him that was the hub. He just, and
He took an interest in everyone. Asked you what you're working on. Spent
yeah,
time talking to you about it. he took an interest in other writers.
And he
He
would
had the
sit.
humility to do that.
Yeah, he did. And he would sit, like he would have that songwriter night every Wednesday. And I think most Wednesdays he would be there listening to people for, for 3 hours at least every Wednesday. And, you know, he had heard a lot. And I sympathetic to other writers, and I can't imagine being there because there are a lot of people who aren't very good. And they can sometimes get good, and I haven't always been very good. I don't think I would ever, I think about how could I ever do, I don't think that I could, but he did it every week. He did it every week. And he's even people that maybe weren't, great. He listened to all of them and he loved it.
And gave
He
them his
loved
full
it.
attention.
And yeah, and that is, there's never been anybody like that since that I know.
Yeah, we need more people like that for sure. Definitely need more people like that. And but yeah, when I see the impact of certain people on other people, I want those people to get their flowers. And so, like I've listened to the songs about Kent and Lloyd and the other musicians, so I really wanted to kind of get into your brain a little bit on tributes, because that's not something you hear on the radio, right? In mainstream music, you don't hear tributes to people on the radio. So I love that you're able to do that within your independent and freedom and all that. Let's chat a little bit about the notable thing of Adam being shy, right? This is pretty well reported on, and Chris is not, obviously, and so this is almost like opposites attract, which is so funny because I'm the not shy one, my wife is the shy one, so I'm in the same relationship, I think. But Adam, you've been pretty reclusive. I don't know if that's the right word, but as a songwriter, you also have to deliver the songs, as you just said, and be entertaining. How do you do that from a place of shyness?
Chris, I've had a difficult time with that. I think, a lot of nights there's something about being on stage that can help bring me out of that for some weird reason. But it hasn't been that way all the time. I mean, I struggled with it for years. I still do. Where I would just be really awkward, and I would want to not be, but
Right.
people who I trusted said, yeah, you got this problem with, just learning, the mechanics of performing and writing, always seemed easier, I guess, to me than that.
Is it
But
social anxiety that you're dealing with essentially, or?
I guess, man, I think, I just always had that kind of personality that I was
Yeah.
just kind of, and I don't think, I don't know what makes a person shy or outgoing or whatever, but I think that, I think it's just kind of who we are. You can't really, if you could make yourself, the way I think everybody would probably be a lot different, than if, because I think we often don't like things about ourselves that kind of make us, are able to be helpful to other people. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, I just there were a lot of performers and artists who I admired, Texas ones especially, who are very shy, um, who people said were very shy, who uh, who were stars, because they changed into something else on stage, you know. And I don't know if that's me, but that's something that I always thought was cool about show business,
Mm-hmm.
was that was possible. You know,
That's
and
called
I'm
being
not
an
going to.
ambivert, by the way. When you're an
What?
There,
What's
introvert.
is
that?
there a word for? I'm an extroverted introvert, but what's an ambivert? Tell
So
me
an
some of
What's
that.
that?
ambivert
What
is
does that
somebody
mean?
who does both, who can do
Oh,
both.
okay. Well, then that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I take it a different way. But with Adam, in this world, in this day, and even 20 years ago, or even when I met you, 13 years ago, he might be perceived as he's shy for sure, but he's
Yeah.
also, you have to wait and be patient.
Yep.
And in this day, people don't like to wait.
I agree.
And I've had to learn that on stage with him. I miss, he says some zingers sometime, and it's like I go home and God, I miss that. I stepped all over that or whatever. You got to, when he's going to say something, he's not just a jabber mouth, he's going to say something that with some substance, some
Yep.
weight, and some depth. And so the patience of the other person, I've seen it around when we're with people, and it's like they don't have the attention span. And that's not an Adam problem,
Nope.
as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's
That's
not.
somebody else that is waiting to speak. They're excited or whatever it is. They want you to meet their energy. And anyway, so yeah. And when I met him, though, he was pretty shy.
Well, I
But
wanted
I
to
think some of that was self-protection of like, I
absolutely.
just want to deliver the songs. I want to come and play the show. And he'd say that to me. And I was like, well, we're missing a whole opportunity here to work the merch and talk to the people a little bit. And so I kind of came in on some of the business end of things to say that's an important thing. And over the time through practice, that's where the lad goes. My husband goes right to the, to meet the people and work the merch. And I think, it's part of practice too.
Well, and I think too, and sorry to interject,
No, get it.
Chris, and I think, it's not anybody else's fault that, that I have that personality. But, one thing I was thinking about before the interview is, I sort of feel like that when I first started around here, I didn't feel like I had that many, as far as writing goes, songwriting. I didn't think I had that many peers who I thought were writing quality. So that sounds like an egomaniac, but I didn't think they were the writing. I didn't think people that I knew could write the songs that I thought I could write. Now I think that's not true. I think there are a lot of really good writers and artists, just locally. That it's just what I've realized over time is that I can't just have things the way I want them. I have to grow. I have to change. I have to adapt. I have to learn, like, what can I bring, not to be better than everybody, but what can I add to that people are going to want to continue to trust me with this. And so I think part of that is just acknowledging that over the last 20, 25 years, people have gotten really, really good, and you have to work really hard,
Yeah.
and.
One thing I wanted to say about Chris, because this is my wife's and I relationship too, is being extremely shy and kind of wrapped up in your own psyche, that imposter syndrome. It's very difficult to take a compliment as well. And I know that you are adamant that Adam takes his compliments. You have taught him how to take a compliment better, at least from what I've read. That's really important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm his number one fan. The
Right.
only thing is I wasn't quite thinking straight because he won't let me listen to his songs in the house. He doesn't quite like that very much. So I have to go to the car. But, yeah, that, and I've watched him also, like he's just saying, worked on his inner, his getting connected to that deeper well inside and trusting himself. And yeah, no, yeah, but don't worry about it. He's pretty good. He knows what's going on. It's like we all have an ego.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, what am I aligning to? Am I aligning to a lie, to delusion? Am I thinking that I'm better than I am or worse than I am? Or yeah, but I mean, I'm gonna go to blows with someone who messes with my husband. I'm just gonna do it, and he can fix it himself. I don't have to run to his rescue. Someone said it from the show the other day. He was like, "I like that. I saw if anyone messes with him." I'm like, "No, I mean, I'm a road dog. I'm not gonna allow anything, but to happen. Not that anybody does anything to him, or he doesn't need a protector. But I do. I love him and respect him and admire him, and I believe he writes songs that are he's a special songwriter, and that needs to continue. I've championed this job where he's tried to hang it up more than I can tell you or want to admit that conversations happen. and that I know that my role is to continue to support him in whatever way that is, whether I'm on the road with him or making music with him or staying home with the dogs or. And so to continue these songs to be written.
Yeah.
And that's him. He's got to do the writing. We write together. We'll probably talk about co-writing or whatever, but I get the privilege of doing that. And like calling back to what he said, it's a gift. I can't believe I get to do it. And then to do it with the man I love, with whom I love, what I love.
What a special
the
thing,
dream.
right? Yeah.
The dream. Yeah. Yeah. It's so special.
Yeah. See,
And what
when
she's saying, oh, sorry. I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say what she's saying is we're out getting out of talking about beating people up. We're going to get into wrestling next.
Let's go.
Listen, we're gonna wear sumo suits.
Let's go.
Just sit. No,
Luchador.
all love.
We'll be luchadors, right? You guys can be
But I have
luchadors.
heard a lot of nonsense. You know what I mean? And people talk. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about? Like have some respect. And so. But it's people say things before they
Yeah.
think about what they're going to say.
Well, I just read that that you've been helping him kind of accept compliments, and it reminded me of my wife. I've been with my wife. This will be our 10th year together, and I never had a woman compliment me before. And so like even 10 years later, and so it's really hard to accept that kind of talk when you're so used to not accepting it. So
I still have a hard time. You just have to say thank
Of
you.
course,
That's
yeah.
an easy thing to say, but it's like, oh, I like your shirt. Oh yeah, I got it down the street at 10 cents, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a story. I got to tell you. Instead of just saying thank you. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that if I just thank someone.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And just trying to be kind, right? My wife and I try to be kind. Every time we leave the house, we find somebody to say something nice to, and it's kind of our go-to thing. That's why I got the sign, "You are enough."
I love that I saw that you have
Thank
you
you.
enough. I love that I see your
nice.
kitty coming through there. That's giving me good vibes too.
Yeah, that's our
And
new
it's-
studio cat.
We need more love in the world.
I
More
agree.
kindness and compassion and more patience for each other.
That's
Yeah.
next. That kind of leads me into my next part of the outline here. Is you guys kind of finding each other. We all deal with our depression and our own mental health deficiencies. You guys have really helped each other through some of that, right?
Do you want me to go? You want to? He looked at me. He's like,
I
"Well,
just-
it's in your bio." So,
yeah. I think for me, I just I think the thing I love about Chris is she does that for a lot of folks. I think she just cares about people. She doesn't really care, what their status is. She just sees the person, and when she makes that connection, she tries to be nice to them and find something, be helpful to them. I think, and I just get the benefit of that, being married to her, but I think that, yeah, I've had a hard time with depression and mental health stuff. And, and I think I think that, having somebody that understands that, and wants you to, be your best self, is really another gift, that I get to have, that, and I think I don't get to, just do whatever I want, because I have to realize that I, have a partner and a team, a teammate, so I can't just do whatever I want, what I want is to, experience joy and as much harmony as possible. And that's something that being with Chris has shown me that she just has a lot of goodness, and kind of sees that in other people. So I just live with her, so I get to see it up close.
Oh, that's so
I have to confess, there are days when I don't appreciate it as much as I should.
Well, I mean, when you get your sainthood, we'll We'll get you there. All right. Like we're human. You're never going to rise above being a human being. And believe me, he should have left me at a couple of truck stops, Chris, by now. Like there was one for sure that he
One
was
for
still in
sure.
that car. I knew he was a gentleman when he was still waiting out there because he could have just kept going,
Yeah.
earlier in our relationship. Because it's been an evolution.
Of course. Yeah.
It's been I think of myself as like I was a little bit more of a jagged edged, maybe stone that, gets washed by the ocean and rounds out the edges of the sea glass. And Adam did that for me, where I was one of those loudmouth, fast talking. That's why I knew to say that. It's like I was always needing to, and I had to slow down, and he had to kind of giddy up a bit. The boys from East Texas, y'all don't like to be in a hurry.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of simmer down, and I had to settle down and kind of get a little more quiet. And then he ended up coming a little bit more out of his shell. And that has been our evolution, I think.
And that's growth
growing
on
as
both
people.
ends. On both ends, that's growth. That's amazing stuff.
And that work comes from independent. Like I have to do it myself,
of
and
course.
he does it himself, and then together we have this great union.
And that just comes from
and-
knowing what the other needs, right? Like it just what the
Right.
other needs and loving that person enough to meet them there, I think, right?
yeah, wanting to do that.
Yeah,
wanting to know that,
absolutely.
listening to them, asking to them, and what they need, and
Yeah.
wanting that. Yeah, I think making that decision all the time. And then translating that into work.
Yeah,
with music.
of course.
It's the same behavior there.
We haven't talked about music very much, but let's do it a little bit here before we get into
All right.
our fun stuff. But I'd be remiss without talking about songwriting, but I'm going to come at it from a different approach. You guys are obviously a duo, a couple now. You've both been solo songwriters before. So my question is how have you guys gotten better since coming together as a couple in a songwriting sense?
I'm going to push back a little bit. Lately we've been getting a duo a lot, and I'm going to push back just a touch. Nothing personal. I really believe he's a standalone songwriter, and I want that to be, what we get. I get to come out and perform with him. I add something to the show. If I don't add to it, I'm not going to do it. But as a duo per se, I don't think. I always think of him as his own writer. And because he has that pocket full of songs
Right.
that he is going to give the world.
Mhm.
And so, but, just just for the sake of the interview, I just wanted to say that about a duo. But do you want to speak on the songwriting? We would never write some of these songs that we've written together the way we have, without each individual's ability. But
Yeah.
I do, like, I pushed for that solo record. The guys wanted Coach. We had this great guy still in our lives. He was our booking agent, wanting us to get out. He was just a big fan of music and wanted Adam and then myself to be out in the country. And so worked hard to get us there, and he did. But they really wanted to do like a double album. And I was a real believer in that quintessential Adam Carroll listener, that they want to put that on in their truck, car, wherever, doesn't matter who, that he could be stripped down and just cut like that through, just continue to have that. So on stage, we get to meld all of those different things together. And I would actually when you see us at the Bowery, I'm always pushing for more solo of him, just to give everyone that powerful experience. But he's always pushing for more of me on.
Of course.
So that's how it is looking like a duo. But I always look at it more like delineated in that sense.
Yeah.
But the writing, I mean, I've had the privilege of writing songs I never imagined, and I wanted to get you some live, and maybe we can talk about that after the show if we can add something in later. But City by the Sea, I got to write with you, Good Farmer, Shadows and Gold, all these songs that I don't think I would never have been able to write them that way and have that depth and weight to them without you. Enter Adam.
Yeah.
Answer the
Enter
question.
Adam.
Is it my turn?
Come on in.
Is it my turn,
Yeah,
Chris?
Yes.
Chris you got the Chris squared here.
So the question was, how do we approach songwriting?
Well, how has your
Yeah.
songwriting gotten better since meeting each other,
Or better.
basically?
Oh, yeah, I would say the same as I think what Chris was saying is I think being with So yeah, she'll come up with a song idea, and I sometimes, and it's like an idea that I wouldn't have thought of. And then sometimes it'll work out to where she'll ask me to write it with her, or I'll say, hey, I'd like to get in on that, you know? Um, and then I think the challenge, the fear, is like I always think, well, if you know, it's not going to work out if we try to do this. It's not going to, work out. It's not going to, it's not going. We won't be able to do it. Maybe it won't be, good enough or whatever it is. And what I've found is it's just a joy a lot of the time to be able to, because it brings the kind of song that I wouldn't ever be able to do. I would never thought about doing solo. Um, and working on harmonies. And the lyrical ideas. It kind of has pushed me to think about songwriting differently. You know, when we're playing together, um, you know, and you got two people and you got acoustics and you got mandolin and guitar and you got vocals. You know, um, I love to think there's so much you can do with just that. If you can find a place to really kind of lock into that, it almost, and so it's almost like you can have it's a space thing. With the vocals and stuff, and what I've realized playing with Chris is that that I can actually work. I'm always trying to think what can I do to add to what she's doing, and not take away, because she's such a wonderful singer. But then I've also thought, well, I can actually sing some stuff too, because I never really had to when I was just playing solo. I would just sing just kind of what I needed to for the song. But I realized, man, this has made me want to push myself a little bit. And then, like the other day, I was at a friend's house and I was playing a new song for this friend. And he's like, "Man, you've gotten really good as a guitar player." Oh, well, it's all and I'm not great, but it's all because playing with
Chris and I
with
are both
Chris,
big
because
around
I've been trying to you know, it's made me want to be better as a musician, you know. But so I've been learning, um, things that I can do now that with you, that because I want it, I want this kind of harmony, and it's great. I get to do my own stuff solo too, and and then we come back together. It's great, but learning these new kind of um, I guess skills, you'd say skills, or just kind of adaptations. Um, I don't know. It's just really cool. I mean, if you have a knack for somebody else, a musical partner, I mean, you're just such a good blending singer, like you said, and then it just makes me want to figure out how I can match you, you know, on stage and in this song, and then like sometimes like I've got song ideas now that I kind of come up with, and I think, well, man, I would love to write this with Chris, or this is a song I could see Chris singing, and then we have a couple of those songs now that I kind of wrote with Chris in
I
mind.
get lucky that way. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I do.
And it's not, and I think that the weird thing is like I get to where I think I can force it, and I can't always force, writing these kind of songs, but when they happen, they're really great. You know?
I love that. It's basically just pushing yourself because the other person basically makes you, and not even in like it's not like you're forcing the other person to push themselves. It's their amazingness that makes you want to do better. Essentially, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff. All right, guys, we're gonna have our having fun segment. These are just some little short segments we'll put out on TikTok and stuff like that
Okay.
ahead of the episode. I think you guys will enjoy this. They're pretty quick. First one is called Hobbies. What things do you guys enjoy doing outside of music?
Outside of music,
Yeah.
I bake sourdough bread. My dad
Okay.
taught me how. I love it. It's a fun meditation. like the dogs a lot, like doing stuff with them, reading, watching the birds, feeding the birds, the hummingbirds, that kind of stuff. Big into birds now. That's a thing now. That's our age group, right?
Yep.
That's appropriate.
Yes.
Friends,
Yes.
spiritual stuff, fun, good stuff.
I have a plant, a orchid
Oh, God.
that I'm trying to keep alive right now, and I've studied several YouTube videos on the best way to uh, help this orchid live.
You should never brought it here. I said, get that out of here.
And that man,
It came in the house. I said, get that out of here. Don't put it back there where someone else can deal with it.
yeah, yeah.
But it was his birthday, and he said, I want to keep it for my birthday. I'm like, how are you going to argue with that?
That's it. I can't even imagine. Like, yeah, Chris is extraordinarily. She got it from her dad. Really handy. So together with me as just standing around,
He's my helper.
she's fixed so many things in the house.
I think that might be an Ontario thing. I'm going to keep it real because I watch a lot of different YouTube channels from Ontario, like homestead people. I freaking love those channels, man.
Yeah, my dad could have one. He really should have one. He's really funny.
Yeah.
And we put him on the camera, and we have changed out the kitchen drains, the kitchen faucet, a cartridge in the shower. I'm ready for the other one. I know how to do that now.
Nice.
Adam helps me. And we had to get the roof down the other day. And I said, Dad, I'm going to get Adam to get up on the ladder and hold the camera. And he goes, I think you better get the roofers out for that.
She, not only can she sing and play music, she can fix a lot of things.
The
perfect wife, Adam. You did good.
So you're saying that your hobby is to be my helper. Well, we got a job. We need an inch and a quarter drywall screws. We only got an inch. I sent you to this story. Only got an inch. His dad said an inch, and then he said he comes back in half an hour later. Dad doesn't understand town, and he's like, "Oh, we need an inch and a quarter. Can you make sure they're an inch and a quarter?" Well, stop the whole job, ground to a halt. So we'll get you back in your hobby soon.
Can you imagine what would happen if we have an Ace Hardware here, and they're so nice for a person like me who doesn't know about any of these things. So imagine if it was just like a Walmart or no, but I mean, they would not be, I would be screwed.
Look,
my hobby is sending you down there. You go down there.
Hey, at least the orchid is still alive so far. So
it's still going, man.
Yep, that's right.
We think.
All right, next one's called Did You Know? Can you tell us something your fans may not know about y'all?
We tell them a lot. We pretty much are open books. Well, did you know that Adam can go in the studio and just play piano? I don't know. Do you want to do one for me? I don't know.
Oh man. I didn't. My mom. Let's see. What does?
We're not good at these short ones.
Did you know? My first record that I bought was 1984 by Van Halen.
There you go.
Is that good?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Pressure's on, Chris.
I know. Did you know that? I don't know. I've been trying to learn dirty Spanish lately.
Let's go. You're in Texas. You should know that by now. What's going on?
I'm practicing. There's one guy I got on my algorithm, and he's helping me.
I love it.
I learned how to say F sakes the other day.
Okay.
So I'm working on it.
All right. Next one's called Mount Rushmore. Who is on y'all's Mount Rushmore of songwriters? And you guys can each pick your 4 for this.
You going first?
It's all you.
Mount Rushmore. I'm going to put Neil Young, Lucinda Williams, Joni Mitchell, and I'd love to pick somebody. I don't know, the 4th one.
Prine?
Prine, yeah. Prine would be a good one. Yeah. That's a good one.
Pretty
Those
good.
are 4 good ones.
You said Joni,
Neil,
Prine, Neil, and who else?
John
Lucinda.
Lucinda.
And Lucinda Williams. Yeah.
Lucinda, yeah. Yeah, that's hard to pick 4.
Guy would be on
Yeah. Man, I'd have to put Yeah, I'd have to say Towns would be on there. Probably, um, you know, uh, who I've always really liked. Um, yeah, I guess it would have to be Towns. It'd have to be, it'd have to be probably, Dylan.
Mm.
Um, I guess it would have to be, um, um, gosh, there's so many of them.
A bit of a guy.
Carroll
Coach
King
Tom.
is great. Carroll King. Um, and um, and then probably like I mean like a recent one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them. And Isabel is really good.
Mm.
Isabel is a very pretty prolific. Yeah, for Mount Rushmore, man, I don't know. That's I'd have to have too many heads.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I know.
I can't. I don't know if I can pick.
I can't
four.
believe Guy Clark didn't get on there. Like, what do you got? What do
It's
you want
tough.
to do?
It's tough.
I'm trying
There's so
to
many.
force make his. Look at how crazy I am. I'm like,
Well, I don't think
I'm
Guy.
designing his Mount Rushmore.
I think Guy was kind of like. I think Guy was kind of there to support Towns. I think he's
But I
great.
think he
But I
really
think-
reached you, didn't
He did. He has. But I mean, But everybody says he's. Everybody talks about him. And
You
he's.
were trying to do something.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think of people who. But it's the same. I mean. Yeah.
Rein
I
us
mean,
in, Chris. Listen, he's trying to do these shorts, and we're
Yeah.
These are
No,
gonna
you're
be
fine.
weird,
You're
but
fine. All right, next one's called What the Heck.
I'm doing it too.
What the heck?
Okay, so what the
What the
heck
heck?
is 5 rapid questions. I'm just going to hit you with them and tell me the first thing that pops into your brain. All right?
Okay, I'm scared.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, the first one is what is your best curse word alternative?
Jumping Jehoshaphat's. That's a good one. Who is that offending?
Uh,
Jumping Jehoshaphat's like
He
that.
doesn't know how to follow that. I love it.
oh, I got to do it too.
Yeah.
Curse word alternative. Do we have to do this again so the timing works out, or?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I can edit all of it. Don't worry.
Geez, Louise, I say a lot.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
that'll work. All right, next one is if you wrote a book, what would it be about?
I went first last time.
Oh,
We're the tour of awkwardness and joy, Chris. This is what we do. This is what we bring to
It's
the
great.
table.
This is why we podcast.
What would your book be about?
my book would be 50 Shades of Myself.
Easy.
She said easy.
Yeah. I'd say as Chris sees it.
There you go.
There you go.
I love it. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, over or under on the toilet paper roll.
Over or get out. Get out of here.
Careful,
Over.
Adam.
Well, I have to say I have to be over because
Or
of
you
what
have to
she
get
said.
out. Yeah,
I have to find a new house.
that's
You
right.
establish that right away.
All right, number 4, which superpower do you wish you had?
Making money all the time. I don't know.
Money girl.
Money girl.
I was gonna say invisibility, but like,
Oh
I never
my
heard of
God.
the superpower of making money. But like, it could be anything. Why wouldn't it be that? We're songwriters. We need it.
Currency woman.
Currency woman. Currency gal.
What about you?
I think mine would have to be probably the X-ray vision. Only because
Easy.
only because you can melt things with it.
He needs
I
something
don't
to
think
put in the
that's-
book, Chris. That's why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
fine.
can-
He's great. I got a feeling for what the book's gonna be. Yeah.
Well,
X-ray vision.
How
isn't
come
it?
Superman could?
Lasers are different than X-ray vision.
I'm not-
X-ray vision, you get to see everyone naked.
Yeah, but Superman was not a pervert. Okay.
How do you know?
Yeah, they might have edited that out.
Well, I mean, not what that we saw anyway.
Hey, listen.
And also,
That's great.
X-ray
he
vision.
said X-ray vision, and then they just put the lasers in there. Okay, they didn't say. They
See,
didn't
that's why I
name-
got to be money girl. Okay.
All right. We're gonna have fun with this last one because usually I ask this of a person, but I'm gonna ask each of you to answer this for the other one. All right.
Okay.
So you're answering for him, and he's answering for you. What world record do you think the other one has a chance at breaking?
Which one goes first?
He's chomping at the bit, Chris.
Go for it.
Oh, I would
Oh,
say she
terrified.
has the.
Well
She
done.
could break the world record as being nice to the most people. That's what I'm
Aw.
gonna say.
The pressure is on, Chris.
It's my fault, but it's the world record of going to the HEB. Okay, it's really my fault. I've
Which
caused
is
this
why you
fault.
need to be currency gal.
That's right. I sent him there with the list. He's so kind to go.
Yeah.
An inch and a quarter for crying out loud.
That's what I'm talking about.
Inch and a quarter.
Half
Oh
an
my
enchilada.
god. All right, so the next one is called One Artist. And funny enough, Adam, you were the answer to this question 3 episodes ago on this show. So, and I will tell you who answered it after y'all answer. Who is one artist that each of you wishes the whole world knew about?
Oh man. Let's see. Gosh, that would be a tough one.
I'm going to say him, okay, while he thinks about it. Adam Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line.
Okay.
Bottom line. Thumbs, 10 toes down on that.
Oh yeah. All right. I would say. Let's see. Who would that be? The whole world knew about
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just okay. Well, let me
I know.
think. The whole world.
Major.
Oh yes. So there's a guy named Chuck Hawthorne who
Okay.
who has 2 records, and he's a great writer, and he's sort of not playing right now, but he is like he's one of those for me that's just as good as like Gordon Lightfoot, and I probably have to put Gordon on my Rushmore. I think
Okay.
I would.
Who's getting the axe?
But
Who's getting the axe?
I have the superpowers of having unlimited possibility. I have no boundaries.
Your superpower is just to change superpowers.
Just
each
to
day.
not have
His
to have any
superpower is an
limitations.
infinite Mount Rushmore.
Everybody wants to hang around
what-
me because they have no limits to what they can enjoy.
Well, just so you know, Courtney Patton
yeah.
answered that question.
I bet she
Adam Carroll a couple of weeks
oh,
ago.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's so
She's
nice.
the best.
Yeah.
I bet she did.
But I think that I think Chuck Hawthorne could use a few more people knowing about his stuff because he's really really good and really great writer, and it kind of made that's when I first he's kind of got a voice like Gordon Lightfoot, and his writing style is a lot like Guy and like Mickey Newberry, and just
Wow.
great.
When
Yeah,
Adam
check
got
him
the
out.
CD,
Check
he
him
turned him up. He turned him all. He went, "Who is this?" Like we met him, and then we got his
Wow.
music, and Adam turned it up, and then he turned it up again.
Yeah,
That's
I'll be
the
checking
best.
them out for sure. All right, next
Mhm.
one's called Biggest Lesson. What is the biggest lesson you've each learned directly from music?
The biggest lesson. Just to do my best. Just to do my best and be patient.
I love it.
I don't know.
Adam?
Yeah, I would say to not to be more to be open to not kind of not worry too much about I guess like kind of focus on your strengths more than what you lack, and that over time the things that you think you lack you can kind of learn you can kind of learn, you can get better at, as you go.
I
Yeah.
love that. Good stuff. All right, I got a couple more. Next one's called advice. Just what's your best advice for a young songwriter that might want to be a songwriter or an artist someday?
Man, I would just, you gotta just be true to yourself. And I think Guy Clark said it. You got to work hard. You got to be true to yourself.
You got to take a chance on yourself, and not take yourself too seriously. I wanted to say that in the last answer too, but to take a chance and stick your chin out, and you're going to get knocked down and rejected and all kinds of stuff. But for the sake of the song, you're going to do it.
Yep. No is not the end, right?
No is not the end. No, you're going to hear no all the time.
Yeah.
Hopefully if you have a booking agent, he hears it more or she hears it more.
Right.
But if you don't, you're going to hear it a lot.
Very true. All right. What are the three things you each are the most grateful for?
I'm grateful for Adam. I'm going to say that right off the bat. Grateful that I'm sober. That's something I am, and that I'm useful. That I can help others with that, and hopefully get the chance to do that. And I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for life, that I have a new day each day, to have another chance to see what I can bring to life, whatever that may be, how little or how big that is.
Awesome.
You said it was three things, Chris?
Three things you're the most grateful for. Yes, sir.
Three things. Man, I would just say the ability to have, in terms of Chris, I think the ability to have somebody that that I get to learn how to be a better friend to, and learn how to take that out to my relationships with others. Just to be able to have just relationship with with the person I love the most, and also just realizing that that's really the important thing in life is relationships with people. The ability to to find something I really enjoy doing, and just you know to experience joy on a as much as possible. I think that'd be the three things for me. Yeah.
I want to say family, in relationships, like
Yeah.
Adam said too.
I love
Family
that.
and new connections and people that you meet and friends. Yeah.
Isn't it's great, like always, trying to become better friends, better family members, and siblings and daughters and sons, etc. Just that growth.
Do I
is
hear
so important.
do I hear some little people out there?
You do.
You got some little people?
It sounds like my grandson is being dragged home.
Well, that's all right. He's got something to say. He
Yeah.
wants to be heard. I'm glad he
He-
could join us.
Yeah,
So, but I
just
wish I could
turned
meet him.
two. Just turned two. But yeah, last one might be the hardest question for y'all, and it's individual. Who is Chris Carroll, and who is Adam Carroll?
Who is Chris
Yeah.
Carroll? Oof.
Yeah,
I'm just a person. That's wow. Let's, I'm a person, a woman, a friend, a sister, a wife, a friend, and I'm a human being having like you've heard said probably, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and we're energy, baby. That's it. That's what I am too. Yeah. I don't know. Like, who is Adam Carroll?
Yeah, that's like, is that some kind of Zen thing, Chris? Or
that's a great question, man. It makes you really, it makes you pay attention to self-reflection, I think, and it's always interesting what you say about yourself, right?
well, I feel like for me, that answer today would be, if I'm living up to who I think that I should be, then that's who I am. If I'm being who I like to be, who I wished who I could be, which is, the most as honest as I could be, as kind as those are the things I'd like to be, you know. Um, and I think that as a generous. I mean, I'm not often as much of that as I'd like to be. So if I could answer that, who is Adam Carroll? I'd like to think about those qualities and think that would have tried to be honest, compassionate, kind, loving person, somebody who did things for other people that made people feel. Um, what is it they say? You don't. I forget who said it, but
Maya
people.
Angelou?
Was
Yeah,
it Maya?
Angelou.
Was it people don't remember what you did or said? They remember how you made them
That
feel.
was Maya.
Yeah. So I think if I could be the kind of person who people remembered that and thought that I made them feel good or whatever that meant, important. I think that's maybe more important than how good of a song I could write. But maybe I think if you can take care of those things, then the talent, all that stuff, whatever it is that you got given to be good at, that will follow.
Man,
Yeah.
good stuff right there, man. It's Adam and Chris Carroll. Again, I got to reiterate, July 12th at 7:30 p.m. at the Bowery stage in Winnsboro. Opener is going to be Cole Allen. You guys come on out. Make sure you're getting your tickets. Again, there'll be a link in the description below. I want to share with you guys how to follow both Adam and Chris. They have their individual social medias and websites, so I'm going to share both of those here spoken, but also there'll be links in the description below. Chris's website is chriscarrollsongs.com. Adam is adamcarroll.com. The social medias for Chris on X is Chris Carroll TX, at Chris Carroll TX. Facebook is at Chris Carroll Songs. YouTube is Chris Carroll. Instagram is at Chris.Carroll. And for Adam, let me get over to him. For Adam, it is Facebook, Adam Carroll Music, and X is Adam Carroll TX. YouTube is Adam Carroll, and Instagram is Adam Carroll TX. You guys make sure you're following them along everywhere. Get the music. The tour dates are on both of their websites as well, and they are very active, so y'all catch them out on the road. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight.
We want to thank you for getting
Thank
the
you.
word out for the Bowery stage and all that you do for all the singers and all the songs, Chris. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to
Thanks,
come. We'll be there at the show, and we're going to record it if it's okay with y'all. And
More than okay.
okay, perfect. And I'm looking forward to it. We'll be there on the 12th, so you guys come out and say hi.
Come on out.
Hey, this
Hey,
is
come on,
Courtney
buddy.
Patton. Thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
This one's called Shadows and Gold. His shadows, her gold, fools for the road, singers in search of a song, shining the sin of an old mandolin, looking for a way to get home. In spite of the sting of that old Bible belt, too many times to be sure, they believed in the magic and watched the storm blow through the holes in the Texas screen door. She said all good things are wild and free. Might take a chance and see what you find. I made a picture for you of a beautiful
had some healing to do. There was one thing he knew. He made a fire for some of his own. He went off in the woods to build what he could and to pray for the shadows and gold. Chasing the light, expecting a spark, avoiding the dance, afraid of the dark. How a drum could still ring from these rusty strings, a face cast in bronze, a collage of their dreams, of their dreams. All right. The moonlight might take her to the music that woke him from the spirit that makes that man fly. In the eyes of a queen, all wrapped in green, smiling as death passes by. There's shadows and gold in the stories they've told, and the life they live like a song. In the spaces you find in between every line, that's a place where they move on. In the spaces you